Good afternoon. Welcome to the records training. Appreciate everybody being here. It's a little light only because we were heavy on the first day, and then we've also got some people that have logged in on the webinar too. Oh, you want me to tell? Hello, webinar people. Thank you. Greetings. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey Quinn from the State Archives, and she's a records management analyst from there, and she's going to provide you the records training that is mandated by DAS for the employees. So I'm going to kick it over to her. Should take close to an hour to get through this, and then we won't have to do it again for 2 years. So I hope everybody feels good about that. Kelsey.
All right, so thank you for joining me for your mandatory records management training right after lunch. Yay! So, I'm from the State Archives. I don't know if any of you have been there, but it's right across the street. It's a really beautiful building. We have really great stuff. And hold on, I'm sorry. I'm trying to move this over. I should have done this earlier. Okay, so we have 3 distinct units at the State Archives. The first being the publications unit. They publish all of the Oregon administrative rules that I hope that you guys know of because you use them all the time. That's what gives us the rules of what we do for our work. They also publish the Oregon Blue Book, which is an almanac that takes a snapshot of Oregon government every 2 years. And then we have the reference unit. They accession and provide access to all of Oregon agencies' permanently historic valuable records. And it's open to the public for use in the reference room. A lot of people don't realize that. Sometimes they think that you have to have a special badge or a nod to get in, but you can certainly come over anytime. And we love giving tours. So if you're interested in checking out our space, it's really cool, and I would be thrilled to take you around. The collection is really popular with genealogists, attorneys, and kind of all types of researchers. Recently, we had someone who was really into bridges, so we pulled a lot of things from ODOT and the Oregon Highway Department. So pretty fun. So the third unit is the one that I'm a part of. That's the records management unit. And we provide records management advice and assistance to all Oregon's government entities, from your largest state agency to your smallest little sanitation district of 1.5 people. So we also write the retention schedules for all of these entities, including both the general and special schedules. I believe you guys have a special schedule, so if you're not familiar with that, I'll let you know, so don't worry. And our unit also manages the security microfilm repository and the State Records Center. And the State Records Center is a warehouse where agencies can store their non-permanent records, which is a much less expensive alternative to either storing things in empty cubicles or offices or going and renting whole warehouses yourself. So much cheaper. And our last function of the unit is the Oregon Records Management Solution. Maybe you guys have heard of it, but it's a project where we work with state agencies to provide and implement electronic records management system. So what is records management? Records management is essentially answering these questions. What is the document or file? How long do I keep it? How should I store it? Where is it? How many copies are there? And what format is it in? And is this the most up-to-date version? And who is the official record holder? So answering these questions is key to managing your records and saving you a lot of time and money and likely a lot of hair pulling out. So why should we as public employees care about records management? Also, why are you guys all sitting over here? This is weird. So in many cases, people don't daydream about organizing their records like I do. That's kind of my jam. But it's usually another job that you have been bestowed upon, and it's definitely your favorite thing, right? So it's usually that chore on a to-do list that's nearly a mile long and rarely the prime focus of your guys' positions. But records management does affect our abilities to do our job well. And it has great importance for all units of government to ensure the public trust and safeguard of our valuable information that we have. So poor records management practices can be harmful to agencies as a whole. Over retaining records can involve growing storage and maintenance costs associated with retrieving information when requested, and agencies also open themselves up to greater legal liability when they over retain their records, as they will be responsible to managing those records for as long as they have them in their possession. So that's not good. And also, you guys being a state agency, on your schedule, it is a minimum maximum. So that means when it says 3 years or 5 years, it means that's how long you're supposed to keep them. You cannot keep them less and you cannot keep them more. So you have a tighter pinch on you than other entities in Oregon. So that's another reason why we really, really, really need to keep up on our records as state agencies. So the flip side of that, under retaining your records also presents major risks to agencies because a failure to produce that requested information can lead to large fines or civil suits. And given these challenges, many agencies settle these disputes out of court, which saves a lot of time, but it's also very costly, and not just in financial terms, but in the eyes of the public, because as a state agency, we're all hiding things, correct? So we don't want to provide any more fuel to the fire of people thinking that we're hiding information. It's our job to provide public information. So we want to make sure that we have that and have it at our fingertips so we can just give it right over. And poor records management practices also have a negative effect on employees of government agencies. So think of how many times you've been looking for one specific thing and you can't find it. And then when you do find it, you make a copy and you put it on your desktop. Then your desktop gets full, you put it in a miscellaneous folder. Then you need it again, so you find it again, you put it on your desktop. And it's just this ever evolving duplication creation. And we don't want that, because the more duplicates you have, you don't know if that's the most up-to-date version. You don't know if that is the official record. You don't know if that's a draft. What are these things? So we really want to make sure that we know where to get things in a centralized location and make sure that we don't create all these duplicate things, because maybe we've destroyed that official document at some point. We have it on our destruction report and we think we're doing good, but then we find that there's 12 other copies just floating around. So, and then we still have to provide access to that if we know that it's around. So it's just, there's a lot of pressure. So records management practices affect everyone who works in public service. Okay, so there are two sides to public records law. The side in which the state archives has jurisdiction, which is retention and disposition. So how long do I keep it? What do I do afterwards? And the side that the Department of Justice has jurisdiction, which is access. And both of which I will address a little bit further. But first, what is a public record? So we determine public records using this criteria. Is it prepared, owned, used, or retained by your state agency? Does it relate to an activity, transaction, function of your state agency? Is it necessary to satisfy the fiscal, legal, administrative, or historic policies or requirements or needs of your agency? So this last part is the most crucial because it points out the fact that we don't determine public record status based on the needs of outside entities. Just because somebody wants a record doesn't mean that you're required to retain it or even create it. So if you've received requests at any time of somebody saying, hey, I need this type of report, but you don't create it, you don't give that to them because you don't create it. So don't cause more stress on yourself. You can obviously give them supporting documents so they could create a report themselves, but you don't need to create that because then you have to figure out how to retain it. So save yourself the trouble. And Part C also outlines the 4 values that we look at when we write a retention schedule. So as you can see here, the definition of a public record is not reliant on the technology or medium in which it was created. So that's something that I will get into a little bit deeper later, but something to think on. So while the state archives determines the retention and disposition of public records, the Department of Justice determines access. So here in Oregon, we have an interesting system. It's important to note that information produced by a public entity may not be considered a public record for the purposes of retention, but still be considered one for public disclosure purposes. So we're in this weird access realm that unfortunately I can't rule on because I'm not an attorney. So also, every person has a right to inspect any public record of a public body in the state except otherwise expressly provided in these ORS. So essentially, you have to give everything unless you don't. What does that mean? So we have, I believe, around 655 exemptions now. That's a lot. That's a lot of gray area to rule on. So either I give you everything or I have 655 reasons to maybe not give you something. It's a really weird, squishy area that I'm glad that I don't have to deal with, but unfortunately the burden is on you guys. So I would say, if you feel like something may be exempt, there's things that you can look up on the Department of Justice website. They have all the exemptions listed, so that helps. But I would contact your counsel if you have one in-house, or the Department of Justice, or even the public records advocate, something like that, to help you weigh out these options, because it is really gray, and maybe another agency withheld some information because they had a reason to, doesn't mean that you guys have that same reason. So it's hard, and I'm sorry, and goodbye. So as stated in a previous slide, the public record is not reliant on the technology or medium in which it was created. It is based on the content. And I'm going to say this 10,000 times, so I'm going to want you guys to say it with me. So it also doesn't matter where it was created. So personal computers, cell phones, all of that, not off limits to public records requests. So another thing to think about, just rule of thumb, please perform your business related activities on government issued devices, and then you won't get your stuff taken away. Nobody wants that. There's so many cases of this, but a few years ago, there was a city councilor who was composing records on his personal device, and when those were requested, he had to turn over his computer for e-discovery purposes. So it's just really good to not intermingle those things. If you must, I know that there's those times where you were supposed to do that one thing for work, it's Friday night, you got home, and then you have that zap in your brain of oh my God, I didn't do that thing. And you do something on your home computer, just make sure you're emailing something to yourself and then taking it off of your computer. So now it's on the server and we don't have to deal with it anymore. But if you have your own laptop that you're bringing home with you anyway, just do it on the laptop. Don't do it on your home device. And the same goes for personal email accounts. So please don't use your personal email account to conduct public business. We all saw Kids Hopper. We all saw all of these other examples. So just don't. It's just best not to. And on a side note, I will say keep your personal business out of your state-issued email account. I know that we have friends at work and we want to talk about our weekend or the doctor's office that we went to and the weird rash on our back, but nobody wants to see those emails, and they can be intermingled with public business. So suddenly you're talking about something important work related, but then you're like, oh yeah, the doctor thing. And then somebody requests these emails, and now your weird doctor thing is all over the place. It's not cute, so let's not do it. And there's a really good quote from Public Records Advocate Ginger. We do these presentations together a lot, and her side of things, she says, don't put anything in writing that you might find embarrassing, because although there is 655 exemptions, embarrassment is not one of them. So just don't. Okay, so in 2016, we put out some new standards for electronic records management. The rules have been updated with modern language to address the use of electronic records management systems, digitization, file format standards, and sections on security and maintenance. And these formats we recommend are industry best practice standards, but we don't recommend them because we think they're the most perfect or permanent in any way. The idea is to get a handle on what formats you have in use. So we recommend PDF as our document file format, TIFF as our photograph file format. You know, they're great, but the idea is if we know that everything is in PDF format, then let's say PDF is going away and sunsetting. We know now, okay, everything is in this format. Now we can migrate them to the new format without any weird issues or trying to figure out how to get that weird proprietary thing into the new format. We just know that everything is in this format, so let's move it over, instead of, oh, there's like 12 different file formats, and then that weird computer in the corner that we only use for that one thing because we can't get anything off of it. It's just really hard to deal with. So make your file formats concise, and your IT will not hate you. And to ensure compliance, make sure you have written policies and procedures that address use, access, retention, and ownership of your records. You can even use it as a policy use agreement kind of thing that people sign off on. You guys do have a policy. I don't know if you are familiar with that. I don't know where you guys would find it. I'm assuming your intranet or something like that, but it has been approved. I approved it myself, so it's great. It tells you not to do a lot of things, so review that. It's basically all the things that I'm telling you right now. And if you have your own special records retention schedule, which you do, make sure that it's up to date and authorized by the state archivist. And actually, it is brand new. It was just approved, gosh, I want to say maybe 2 months ago now. So that's fresh off the press, ready for you guys to use. So just make sure that you're using that, and you know that if anything's been updated, it's on that. Okay, so on to retention schedules. So what is a records retention schedule, you may be asking yourself? And that's totally okay, because a lot of people discover it every day and then they call me and say, what do I do? So the records retention schedule is a document that tells you how long you need to keep your documents to satisfy those administrative, legal, fiscal, and historic requirements of that public record. So as we've stated before, the retention of document is determined by the content and not the format. And the retention schedule is your only legal authorization to destroy public records. So it has the list of everything that you guys create, and it tells you what to do with it. And just because something is listed on that retention schedule does not mean you have to create it. It only tells you what to do with the documents that you do create. And the retention schedules are updated and approved by the state archivist. So just make sure that when you are looking at your special schedule, that you are accessing it on our website. Same goes with the general schedule, because we do periodically update these things. And I know people like to print them off and put them in a binder, but it makes it really hard to search through, and you don't know if it's the most up-to-date version. So don't create duplicate copies. Okay, so this is an example of the state agency general schedule. So this is located on our website, which is www.sos.oregon.gov/archives. And the general schedule is where every state agency will be able to find their commonly created records. So every state agency has administrative rule preparation records. So we're not going to put that on your special schedule because everybody makes it. So special schedules, on the other hand, are those uniquely created records that nobody else makes. So we have to figure out how long you guys need to keep those for those legal, fiscal, administrative reasons. So it's there for you to use. So please use it, because you are creating some records that are unique. And I will note that sifting through the schedule can be the worst experience of your life. So you can scroll and scroll and scroll, trying to find what section it might be listed under. We don't do your job. We just organize things. So we put things where we think that they may fit, but you probably have a job where you're wearing 12 hats and you're like, well, I also do some financial things as well as, maybe my administrative job. So where do I find it? The best way to search is to use the Control and F keys on your keyboard, or that F3 key at the top. So a search bar will appear like magic, and you will be able to search keywords on what this record might be. So really, we're just trying to get to that nitty-gritty. What is this record? Because everybody calls everything different. So we try and come up with the most generic name of something. Sometimes it works in our favor. Sometimes nobody can find anything ever, and then they call me. So you can totally call me. This is what I do. So, or talk to Carly. She's your records officer. I don't know if you guys know who Carly is. Get to know Carly. And like I said, if you have any trouble, just let me know. But searching keywords and synonyms of those keywords really, really helps. This did not work. What am I doing? There we go. Okay, so on to classifications and filing systems. Okay, so traditional file structure, really limited on space. How much can you fit into a folder? How many folders can you fit into the drawer itself? Usually it's pretty self-explanatory. We've got numerical, alphabetical, by subject, those types of things, unless somebody's gone completely rogue and it's that drawer that the thing that you need is in there, but you don't know where to find it, and then you just close it and walk away and pretend that you don't need that for another week until your boss yells at you. So that's never happened to me before. So largely, instead of this physical medium, we have documents in digital form. So how do we organize these? This is where we come with the share drive. Ooh. So this is a standard share drive environment. It's horrible. So there's a lot of miscellaneous folders, a lot of acronyms that may or may not make sense now or ever. There's a Who Let the Dogs Out MP3, clearly business related. Something about Taylor Swift, I don't know. Why are these on our work-related devices? Not a clue. Embarrassingly enough, this used to be the archive shared drive. So that's horrible. We're the people who tell you what to do, so we can't have this. Thankfully, this was before my time working here because I probably would have died. So we had to figure out what to do because we can't have this and then tell you how to make your files look good. So we came up with some solutions. We need to simplify. So fewer categories equals really easy to use. Essentially, we're going to start from the top. We're going to have folders that have your broad functional areas, maybe your department or your program or something that makes sense to break up what you guys make. Then within those, we're going to have the types of records that you guys make. So let's say it's accounting. We have accounting, we have accounts payable, accounts receivable under this folder. Then within those, we're going to have the years or something that will trigger that retention. So keeping up with the accounting, we've got accounting, accounts payable, and then we'll have 2019. And then in 3 years, we know that that 2019 folder can get the heck out of here. So essentially, we are setting it up like the retention schedule, which makes it super easy. I've also created a template for this. So if you guys need help, I'm more than happy to share that with you or even sit with you and help you figure out how to get this organized because it can be really daunting, especially when you have 20 folders deep of miscellaneous folders and have no idea where to go from there. So let me know. I'm always available to do this for you. So, I mean, really the point of this is putting your official records in a centralized location so everybody can access it. Like if I'm the only person who knows where the accounts payable records are and I'm sick or on vacation and nobody can get to them, that's not good. So we want to make sure that it's in a location where everybody can get at them and know exactly where they are, where to file them, where to retrieve them, and know that that is the most up-to-date and official record. So this helps you not over-retain records. It helps you not duplicate records, hopefully. So it really, really, really helps. Personnel will be able to, rely that these are the most up-to-date records. And personal drives should be reserved for non-record materials, reference materials, unfinished drafts, and scratch notes, those kind of things. We don't want to keep those duplicates. We don't want to create those miscellaneous folders that we love so much. And I don't want to sound high and mighty. I have a miscellaneous folder right now. It's really busy right now. So I am not immune to the miscellaneous folder. It's really handy, but it's the demise of us all. So, so this is the shared drive. This is what it would look like if we followed those tips that we laid out. So I have to talk into this, so I can't turn around. But the top level, we have our human resources department at the Secretary of State. Within that, we have our employee personnel records. So this is really just going off of the retention schedule. If you looked at the retention schedule, this lays out completely. So within employee personnel records, we have different types of records. We have benefit records. Benefit records have an A and a B on it. So we have non-PERS records and PERS records. So we have those folders laid out. And then within those, we have those yearly folders to trigger that retention. So then we know in 3 years or in 75 years, we can get rid of those. So hopefully this makes sense. And I am totally willing to share this with you guys if you need more help with it. And I believe Carly is going to send out the slides to this if you guys want to look back on them. So this makes the job of managing records over time much easier, helps you find the records you need, lessening your liability related to public records requests. So we love it. Okay, so once we've established our clean filing system, what's to stop us from falling into our bad habits again? I have a miscellaneous folder, everyone. Like, we can always fall back into these bad habits. We can train really well and get everybody on our unit level to just, support it and do it really, but practices tend to slip. So over time, we start to approach the same mess that we had in the beginning. To avoid this, bringing in some new tools to automate simple routine decisions can help, lessening our reliance on every single person doing the correct thing 100% of the time. So this is where we bring in electronic records management systems. So an electronic records management system can be used to locate and manage not just electronic records, but also physical record locations. So I'll touch on that a little bit more later. But it also helps automate routine tasks like applying retention schedule to groups of records or destroying records at the appropriate time. So among many other features. So it's in that central location that you need, but then you don't have to deal with the after effects of that. How long do I keep this? What do I do with it? That kind of thing. So it makes it so much easier to use. And there's a number of reasons why manual records management practices don't work in the electronic world. So for instance, we create mountains of digital information on a daily basis. And if everyone to dedicate half of their time to managing all of these records, we still wouldn't get to it all. We're just cranking them out, and it's really overwhelming. To go along with this huge volume, there's no physical reminders that spur us into action. When you have a big pile of records on your desk, it's going to make you want to do something with them. But that same pile in digital form is the miscellaneous folder, and we can ignore it forever or even just delete it. So what do we do with that? So we also create massive numbers of duplicate copies of electronic information. Like I said in the beginning, we find that thing, we stick it on our desktop, we put it in the miscellaneous folder, we do it again, rinse and repeat 10,000 times. So, just think of working on a group project and emailing something back and forth. How many documents do we have now? So we're working on a project together, and we have final. We have final one. We have final. We have final. Then we have final in caps. Which one is it? Which one is the most up-to-date version? We don't know. So now we have dozens of different things to manage. We don't know what the real one is. So we keep them all, and then we cry when we have to find the real one. So it's impossible to reliably destroy all of these copies as well. And controlling access is really difficult on top of that. So security gets exponentially harder when you have to apply rules to so many different silos. Lapses are almost inevitable, and your agency can be at a tremendous risk. And without centralized control over your information, it becomes much harder to find and produce when facing those public records requests. So now we've got final, and final two, and all these different finals. Somebody requests this thing now. Which one do we give them? We don't know. So now we're spending a whole bunch of time looking through all of these, scouring, trying to see, okay, is this the most up-to-date one? Because I don't know. And if we can't find it, the time spent and those lawyer fees, it all adds up. So it looks pretty ugly in the end. And finally, electronic records need monitoring over time, which people don't really realize. They think, hey, I scanned this thing, I'm going to keep it forever. That's great, because paper doesn't last very long, right? Not true. Paper lasts much longer. So like I said before, those file formats, they change, and what's best today may not be best 15 years from now or even 2 years from now. It's pretty scary how much data loss we get in digital information. So we need to understand what we hold to better prepare for the future, and an ERMS allows us to do that and track all of that information and keep things readable. So that's good. So having framed that problem, let's discuss specific benefits that you can get from an ERMS. So government agencies can see tremendous efficiency gains through the use of these tools. ERMSs allow you to manage both electronic information and paper information in the same place. While the paper records don't actually live in the system, they can have little markers that you can create that tell you where they are at in your storage room, or even if they're in offsite storage somewhere. And then you can manage the retention for both on that same system. So, you know, the retention comes up on something and then you know, oh, I need to go to the storage room and get rid of that box as well. So it makes it just so much easier. And when the time comes, you know, we can make sure that everything is checked off of that list. So similarly, one can search in one place for all of your information. So maybe we have some kind of a project that we're looking at and we have all of the digital information, but then we have that marker that says, oh, there is that box that has all of the printed information as well. So we're not doing double the work trying to find where our things may be held. And this leads to faster public records requests and compliance and a much happier public, because remember, we're hiding everything. So if we can produce something really quickly, then everybody's happy. And using an ERMS also cuts down on huge amounts of redundancies, which frees up your IT resources for more proactive projects. And again, they won't hate you, so that's great. And instead of creating dozens of email drafts before finalizing that document, you can manage it all from the start in one place. So really, really, really great. So you may be asking yourself, what are my options regarding these electronic records management systems? So agencies can select their own system, providing it meets all the requirements in that OER 166 Division 17 that we talked about earlier. Of particular note, any ERMS selected by an agency must be certified to meet the Department of Defense's standard for electronic record keeping systems. So the standard ensures the security and interoperability between these systems, essentially meaning that you can get the things that you need when you need it. Also, if you don't like the system, you can now get the things out of it when you need it, to either put into a new system or whatever you want to do with it. Some systems don't allow you to do that. So you must be on the lookout when seeking these systems, because there are so many products out there that say that they're an electronic records management system, but they're a document management system. So sounds similar, but it's really, really not. They're often cheaper, lack those same features of an ERMS, and don't have that critical retention and disposition component that ERMSs have. Vendors can be charlatans, so I would really, really, really do your homework on that. I have a list of DoD certified programs, so if you guys are looking at something like that, contact me and we can discuss what we're looking at, because I want to make sure that you guys don't sign into something that you go, oh, we can do what now? Oh, great. So on that note, agencies in Oregon have a unique opportunity to join our statewide electronic records management system called the Oregon Records Management Solution, or ORMS. So that is one of the big components of my job, is essentially helping people get these going. So I help build the system, I help train users individually and make sure that this is going to be super, super, super easy for you. So this is a private-public partnership with the State Archives and Shavs Consulting. So we started ours, I think, 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago now. And essentially everyone can piggyback on our contract with them. So that's how we're able to get it for so much cheaper for you guys. So it's really great. We have a ton of people on here. I think this is kind of out of date. 70 agencies. No, maybe that sounds right. They keep adding every day and it's getting very overwhelming. So hence the miscellaneous folder. So, so I think you guys are actually kind of looking into getting it. So I might be training all of you. We'll see. So anyway, something to think about. Now on to my favorite subject, email. Yay. So you will find that email is the worst thing in the world to me. It causes a lot of anxiety and, oh, what is happening? Okay. So email causes a lot of anxiety. We're probably getting a ton as we speak. How do we manage it all? So if you remember my catchphrase, it depends on the content, not the format, that opens up a big can of worms, because then you think, oh, I got 50 emails today and I'm supposed to look at each one of them to see what the content of that was and then figure out what to do with it. It's not going to happen. So we have to figure out what to do with it. So there's a practical approach to email. It's not my favorite, but it helps. This is from the National Archives. It's called the capstone approach. So this is where you look at each individual employee position and you say, okay, what's the highest records retention that I could give that particular person or position? And then you retain all of your email for that amount of time. So let's say my position was a maximum 7-year retention. So now my yearly folders of my email are going to go into a folder, and then in 7 years, I'm going to get rid of them. So that doesn't have to be for everything, because certainly we have projects that have a finite amount of time or contracts or something like that where we can have a folder for those specific things and get rid of them when they need to be. But this is just for all that extra stuff that we don't know what to do with. Like, yes, it has business related talk in it, but I don't know where it goes. So that's how we kind of deal with that. So like I said, it's not my favorite, but it works. So sorry. Okay, so some more tips for email management. What you do not need to keep: FYIs, CCs, informational notices, ads, listserv messages, event announcements, spam, personal correspondence, or just don't do it, please, and articles and reference materials. So now, I guess, what do we do with the email that we receive? So if we are emailing internally, we only need to keep what we've sent, technically, because everything's captured on your server. So everybody has sent something to someone within the agency. So really, you only need to keep what was sent and not what you've received. On the flip side of that, if you get something from an external source, so I work for the Secretary of State, if I emailed you, we're different, so you would need to keep what I've sent. Or if you're talking to someone of the public or something like that, you need to keep what you've received from that. So hopefully that makes sense. And you guys use Outlook, correct? Yes. Have you used the cleanup tool? Oh my God, everybody. Okay. So email is the worst, but the cleanup tool is the best. So this is my favorite thing in the world. So when you leave on vacation, or I don't know, your team has had emails back and forth all day long, and for some reason there's 50 emails and you all sit next to each other, so why don't you stand up and talk? you can click the cleanup tool, and this will condense all of your conversation to that last part of the conversation. So now when you get back from vacation and you see 100 emails and you cry a little bit and you go, how am I going to get through this? You click the cleanup tool and you can get through it. And you can go get some coffee and you can just relax a little bit. So we have tried to break it. It cannot be broken. So honestly, if you don't get anything from this, but you use the cleanup tool, I will be so happy. So, so we've tried to break it. Essentially, if you're talking within a group, you break off into another group, that's its own instance now. So we've got 2 instances. If we have emailed an attachment, that's going to be its own instance as well, because in the string, attachments don't stay. So you, like, if you have attachments, maybe you'll have a few within the string that remain. But honestly, this is the best thing in the world. So please use it. And then please email me and tell me how much you love me. So, okay, so now that we've addressed email, now we're going to talk about text messages and messaging apps. So do you guys use text messaging for your work? Okay, so do you have business-related conversations via text? Do you have a phone that was given to you by your government? Okay, so that makes me feel a bit better. Don't have like work-related conversations on your personal devices, please. But if you have a work device that you're texting on or whatever, that's totally fine. We do need to get you guys mobile device management though, because these text messages are going to have a retention. It's just like email. You know, you're having a business related conversation and we need to schedule that. It has a retention. So I'll talk to Carly and see what we can do about that, because I want to make sure that you guys are keeping your records for the time that you need to. And so let's see here. I guess within that, are you using instant messaging services? Okay, so Skype saves your conversations into a little folder on your Outlook, so that's great. But what kinds of conversations are we having within your instant messaging? Because remember my embarrassment clause. So a lot of people use these to talk trash. It's fun, we love it. But if you're having your business related conversations and then you start talking smack, there's no way to not intermingle these things. So we want to keep these things out of writing. So go take a walk and talk some smack. So we don't want these things in writing. We don't want them intermingled with our public records. It's very embarrassing. And then, I think we've talked about this before, but just to make sure, do you guys have the phone systems that record your telephone conversations? No? Okay. Okay, good. Does your phone system turn your voicemail into an MP3 that is emailed to you? I'm hearing yes and no. Okay, so when it's turned into an MP3, it's a record. So turn that off immediately, and I'll pretend like I never heard this at all, and we'll just go on with our lives. Yeah, so it's bad because content, how do we even search that now too? At least with like text messaging and emails, you can quickly like do a search and see what things are contained, but with a voicemail, we have to now listen to every MP3 to find that voicemail. So please turn it off and I'll pretend like this never happened. So with that, scaring you, I'm gonna go. So, do you guys have any questions? And you can always email me. I'm around. You could always email Carly. But anyway, that's all I have for today. So if you have questions, I'll hang around. But other than that, go live your life. Thanks. How's it going?
It is going. It's